you ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Roundtable. My name is Robert Bannon. Thanks for listening to us on the Broadway Podcast Network or watching us on YouTube or social media. You know, I'm a music fanatic. It's not just Broadway. It's not just cabaret. Like, I love and live for music. You know, growing up, I was one of those kids that was obsessed with reading Billboard. You know how nerdy I was? Billboard was a magazine. It wasn't just a website, and the charts were very important to me. I used to read the charts. Now you can get access to the charts. I'm still a nerd. I still read the charts. I read Broadway grosses. I read movie grosses. I read the Hollywood Reporter every day. I'm a nerd. You know, if you got this artistic bug, that's what I tell my students' parents. If your kids have a bug in you, then you just have to do it. So when I get the chance to report on things that move me or I find really fascinating, it is always shocking. And an artist who's been out, and maybe you've heard her music in like Tangled or on Grey's Anatomy or on ER or on television, or if you've seen Grace Potter and the Nocturnals or Grace Potter alone tour the country. She is an artist, singer, songwriter. I don't know how do you describe her. Jazz? No. Folk? Maybe. Blues? Maybe. Everything? Like she rock and roll? I first heard Grace Potter when she did a duet with Shoshana Bean of I Need a Little Help from My Friends, the classic Beatles number. And I was like, that voice is it. And then I'm opening up my email one day and I get an email from a publicist saying that there's a new film called The Resonator about a synthesizer. And do you want to interview the filmmaker who's named Alison Tavel and Grace Potter? And I wrote back to the publicist and I said, I love Grace Potter. Grace Potter is amazing. I love her music. I've listened to her albums. I listened to her road album. She's great. The publicist was like, well, it's really not about her music. It's about this documentary that her road manager made about her father being someone who invented his early synthesizer called the Resonator. So I was like, sure, yes, we need that. We want that. We're going to listen. It's going to be at South by Southwest. Let's listen to it. So they send me the link to this film. And, you know, sometimes it's hard as a person who's been lucky enough to do this show 400 something times. You get a lot of movies, you get a lot of books, you get a lot of tickets to see shows, and I'm very grateful for all of it. It's literally a dream come true to make art and to talk to artists, because art and artists have moved me my whole life. I'm honored to be an artist. And so I'm like, but you can't see everything. You can't read everything. You can't be a part of everything. There's just too much art and work out there. So I come home from rehearsal. I'm directing Mean Girls at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. So I come home from rehearsal and it was a rainy Saturday. It was an awfully nasty day out. And I see, you know, oh, Peter Gabriel's in this. Fred Armisen is in this. I'm like, I love Peter Gabriel. Fred Armisen's SNL. He's great. He's a musician as well. It's going to be about musicians. And I don't know anything about the birth of the synthesizer. So I said, you know what? I'm going to play it. And I love Grace Potter. So I was like, I'm going to play it. So I pressed play. And it is, if you know me, you could ask my husband, you could ask my friends. Like, it takes me days to watch a movie because my ADD and my attention span is not great. Nothing is better than 90 minutes with no commercials. Nothing is better than 90 minutes with no intermission on a Broadway show, because I start to lose concentration. I sat there and I watched this movie. I ordered takeout and I sat in my couch and I watched this movie called The Resonator. And because you think it's about music, you think it's about a synthesizer, you think it's about a daughter who finds her father. Her father passed away when she was 10 weeks old. He had invented something called the Resonator, which, if you know anything about synthesizers are like computer programs that make noises that sound a lot like other instruments, like MIDI files and like fake strings. And synthesizers have got a lot better. I have never used a synthesizer on my records because, you know, sometimes musicians, especially in jazz, sometimes we like poo-poo the electronic sound. But now they sound so authentic and they make sounds that you could never imagine. And some of the best pop music that you've ever heard in your life has been created by the synthesizer. So I thought that was the journey I was going to go on. But what I come to find out is that Alison didn't know much about her father. And then looking into the Resonator made her reach out to his friends, who made them share a little bit more about who he was as a human, which made her go back to her mother, her grandmother, her uncle, and find out the true story about her father. And then this story, which you think is going to be about the birth of electronic music and the Resonator, turns into the story about a daughter reconnecting with her father many years after he's gone. I had the chance to spend a few minutes with Alison Tavel, who wrote, directed, and shot this movie beautifully, by the way, because it's really a gorgeous film and it's told in a really succinct, smart, fun, educational, entertaining, and heartfelt way. And the one and only Grace Potter, the rock and roll chart topping superstar who sells out stadiums and arenas everywhere, here to talk about the Resonator. Here's what we found out. Hi. Well, I'm so excited. I'm wonderful. I'm so excited to speak to you both. First,
She's the boss.
you're the boss. You are the boss. You are both so beautiful inside and out. Your artistry has shown through. We all know and love Grace. I love you to pieces. But what is wonderful is that, Alison, your artistry, your vision for art, this film is gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Well, to start off, I guess I have to thank Grace because she has this insane world where everyone that comes into her orbit gets to like be the most complete, full, open version of themselves. And so without being on tour with Grace, I would have never had the interest or even the thought to be curious about this project. So like it was the tour and it was Grace's world that we were in. Like people go into her tour and come out different people for the better. And so like, I owe her so much. And it's so funny you call me a boss because she's been my boss for so long.
I know, but I have not been your boss in a hot minute, and there's a reason. This film really took over, not just in earnest with Alison taking this very seriously, but also in the ways in which I was able to watch her grow and just feel this arc, the power shift from I'm her boss to like, oh my God, I am in awe of this woman, And that really, I mean, in the 10-year arc of making the film, I watched someone learn how to become a filmmaker, and I was the proudest thing I could ever do.
Well, it's beautiful to see your relationship on screen. It's beautiful to see the support. It's beautiful that this film is now going to stream at South by Southwest, where all the cool kids can come out to play and all the great art is made. So, Alison, if people who haven't seen it, The Resonator, the movie is called The Resonator. It's about your father. And what has been the most moving thing is you think it's a musical documentary. You think it's going to be, oh, Peter Gabriel's in it. And we're going to talk about all these great musicians that are in it. And then there's a moment in the film, without giving it away, that takes a twist and a turn and breaks you. Your journey is incredible. How do you sum up the 10 years that it took you to make this film?
Oh my gosh, to sum it up. I can't like there's too many, we don't have enough time to talk about every revelation that I've had, but it really was supposed to be all about the things you mentioned. It was supposed to be about the musicians and the gear and the technology and the invention. And then like pretty early on when I was filming and meeting my dad's friends to talk about the synth, they just wanted to tell me about Don and like what they thought about him and who he was from a different perspective than I'd gotten my whole life growing up from his family. It was the first perspective outside of the family narrative that I'd had. And so like Gordon Baird, this guy was the founder of Musician Magazine and he placed Resonator ads. So I went to him to ask about the synth. And then he told me these crazy things about my dad that I'd never heard before. And it's almost as if these people had been waiting for me to approach them and they were like, had all of this stuff that they finally wanted to share. And so the craziest thing for me was the idea that I went in just wanting to learn about a synthesizer, not really caring anything about my dad or his background. That wasn't my intention. And then 10 years later, I feel like I have a relationship with my dad. And I kind of, in September of last year, the film was wrapping and I had like a moment of like feeling like I was mourning the loss of my father for the first time. And that was a really weird feeling because he died 30, almost 6 years ago. And here I was like crying, feeling like I'd lost him yesterday.
Yeah. It's a beautiful story. And then also anyone, if you're a musician or not, if you know what a synthesizer or what the resonator is or not, it's a story for you because it's really about finding yourself and finding your family. Was there, you work with people like Grace, who shares her life very publicly, who's a public figure, but for you share very vulnerable parts of your mother, your grandmother, your stepfather, your uncle, and how was that? Was it scary to share this with the world? It's so intimate.
Yeah, Grace talks about me wanting to quit a bunch of times. Yeah. And that was one of the things where I was like, when the narrative turned to be so personal, I was like, oh my God, like I don't know if I want to share this side of myself and put all of my family members who I care so deeply about on public display. Like, that's not who I am. I'm not trying to be this, I'm not trying to be a public figure, and I'm not, but like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. And then I thought, this whole time I've been making this film for me, and I've been making this film for my dad. And then I thought, I have to share it, because these are like, even though they're really hard things to put on camera and like show people, there's things that are relatable here, that people can relate to my dad and what he was going through, and people can relate to me and what I'm going through. And like, maybe that'll help people, like there's a lot of things in there that after you watch the film, you might be like, oh shit, I need to go talk to my dad about this thing, or like the parents might be to like, maybe let their kids off the hook and be more loving and less, like, my dad was financially supported, but he didn't feel that he was loved in the way that he wanted to be. And like, there's a chance to change that. I met with this guy who has this incredible analog machine, and we were talking, and he was like, he watched the film and he was like, I really want to help you, but I really want to send this film to my daughters because they don't talk to me anymore.
Oh.
And I was just like, yeah, please send it to him and put me in touch. Like, I'll talk to him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing. That's why I decided to put my whole family at risk for judgment and criticism, because I'm proud of it, and I think that that's the real story. So I'm not ashamed to tell it.
Well, what I think is so great about it is that there's no judgment. There is no shame in the story. Everyone, like you talk about your father, people are complex. They're not superheroes. They're not magical. There's good, bad, and everything in between in all of us. Grace, did you think that this journey was going to take her to where it took her? Did you have an inkling? Was it all a surprise?
After the Gordon Baird interview, she came back and was like, okay, so things just got super real and I don't know what to do about it. And, because she'd been bouncing between tour and shooting and exploring these stories, the feedback that I would get from her was, I'm nervous, I'm fascinated, I'm hurt. Like, I'm hurt that this is news to me. Like, why would people keep this from me? Even, and I kind of recall this, that, your mom was so ready to tell you the truth, but you needed to know that you were ready for those answers.
I needed to ask.
She
wasn't going to tell me until I was ready to ask.
And that is a real and an incredible piece of who Tammy is and what she meant for you growing up, and knowing that she was going to protect you from something that if you chose to have it be none of your business for the rest of your life, she would have kept it. But instead, your curiosity, oh kitty cat, she was ready.
Yeah.
And it was a very once the Pandora's box was opened, it was an amazing honor and kind of a delight, and a little bit of a horror movie, like clown car ride through like one of those fun houses, like where it just got crazier and crazier, and all of the circumstances around the family revelations were stunning and compelling, and just brought me to my knees. And truly, I think what I really am most captivated by in being both her supporter and friend, but also producer in this, was that she hated every second of it, but loved it too, and that's really the willingness of a curious mind. And that's what brought it all to the surface.
Well, Alison, your father was a musical genius and a technological genius, and you have all those genes, because your movie is gorgeous.
That's so nice. Thank you.
The feature film, the look of it, the cartoon elements, the way the story is told and edited and told together is just such an entertaining, thoroughly enjoyable movie that makes you feel good and gives you all the feels. So if you're at South by Southwest, go see this film. If it's when it's distributed, when it's somewhere, when it's streaming somewhere, make sure to follow and stay on top of everything. And we're so excited for the journey has just begun for you as a filmmaker and artist to continue. We're ready.
That's
what I've said.
That's
You hear
very
that?
nice
More.
to hear.
We
Thank
want
you.
more. Encore.
You're a storyteller, and you got it. And Grace, I'll be listening to Falling or Flying for the rest of my life. And go see Grace on tour she's with Chris Stapleton. She's around this country, so make sure you stream and listen to them. You both.
The Mother Road album,
Yeah.
guys. The Mother Road album is the best thing I've ever
The
heard.
Resonator movie.
Yes. And the movies and all the art. So stay on top of it, because they know what they're doing. It's an honor to be with you all. Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. So nice to meet you.
Pretty awesome. The film right now is at South and by Southwest. It hasn't been picked up and distributed yet, but I'm sure it will be very shortly. So don't sleep on it because it's a beautiful movie and they're beautiful people. You know, artists, a true artist who does it for the art and not for the fame and for the money. Even though when you see Grace Potter's house in the film, you'll say, oh, she's doing okay. Does it because they have some storytelling to tell, a story to share, emotions to feel, feelings to feel, and love to share. And that's what all of this is for. We do this, artists do it out of the love of their heart, especially the ones that do it for the real love of the art. So kudos to Alison, kudos to Grace, and kudos to Alison for being brave enough to share the story, because that was why I asked that question, because it is a very vulnerable story. She, you know, her grandmother passes away. I'm not trying to spoil it. Less, Robert. I get the note. I get the note. Stay up to speed. You can follow Alison Tavel on the Instagram. And you can follow Grace Potter. Of course, you can follow Grace Potter on the Instagram, and you can stay up to date on all the things that Alison is doing and all the things that Grace is doing. And I'm telling you, it's worth a watch when it comes into your neck of the woods. Just go to @Alison Tavel, Tavel on Instagram to find out more, including the article that is on Billboard and more about the film and all that fun stuff. And then you can stay up to date, of course, with the one and only Grace Potter. Grace Potter on tour right now with Chris Stapleton. Just go to @Gracie, Gracie Potter on Instagram. And we will be here all week. We have a gigantic week here at the Roundtable that I'm really excited about. Who's coming on the show? Well, Thursday's live show is Janet Hubert, Aunt Viv from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. She's never afraid to mince words. She's telling the story that you've never heard. David Jennings is here from Days of Wine and Roses. Craig Rubino is going to be here as well. Craig has got a new cabaret show. He was a star of Les Mis and all this, and Scarlet Pimpernel. And then Nicole Parker from Mad TV, who plays Celine Dion in Titanic, is going to be here as well. So always fun, exciting stuff, plus a big giant announcement coming on Friday. So don't miss a second of the Roundtable. Thank you all so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you here next time. The best is just go call a parent or an aunt or an uncle or a grandpa or whoever your adult is in your life and show them some love. Till next time, thanks for being here. Bye, everybody.